Halo, selamat pagi. Apa kabar? Baik, selamat datang kembali ke Amerika. Sudah pernah kemari sebelumnya ya? Hah? Belum pernah? So, ini pertama kali kemari? Semuanya pertama kali? Wah, tepuk tangan. Kalian berhasil sampai ke Amerika ya. Oke, perkenalkan nama saya Adeline. Kalian sudah pernah dengar Amerika belum sebelumnya? Belum pernah? Sama sekali? Yang sudah pernah dengar siapa? Itu superhero udah pasti pernah dengar. Oke. Well, Amerika itu adalah pusat kebudayaan teknologi Amerika. Jadi we are the first American cultural center that is based on technology. Bukan hanya satu-satunya di Indonesia, tetapi kita ini baru satu-satunya di seluruh dunia. Ya, luar biasa ya. So America is right now is celebrating our second anniversary. Ini adalah hari ketiga dari perayaan ulang tahun kita. Enak ya, kita ulang tahun sekaligus dirayain dalam 3 hari berturut-turut. Ya. Kali ini kita mengangkat tema At American. At American itu adalah a weekend celebration where we celebrate comics, the stories that they tell, and also the characters that all of us grow up with. Gitu. Makanya kalau teman-teman lihat di depan ada Star Wars, ada Marvel, ada DC Comics. Jadi ceritanya tentang itu. Nanti malam kita akan ada cosplay, yang dimana ada beberapa partisipan yang akan datang ke Amerika menggunakan kostum-kostum tertentu, kostum-kostum komik tentunya. Hari pertama ketika kita menyelenggarakan our anniversary, itu semuanya komik-komiknya itu komik-komik Amerika. Tapi malam ini sangat spesial because all of the cosplay contestant is going to be here, but they're going to wear comics from all around the world. Jadi boleh X-Men, boleh Sailor Moon ya. Dan juga teman-teman boleh mention komik-komik yang kalian suka apa. Dan mungkin bisa ada nanti malam ya. Lalu sebelum cosplay itu, setelah acara ini kita akan ada comic book signing dan juga comic drawing bersama dengan Mas Ardiansyah ya. Jadi kalau nggak kemana-mana, stay aja di sini di Amerika karena acaranya seru-seru banget. Selain daripada acara yang kita selenggarakan pada weekend ini, kita juga ada Mas ADMS yang akan hadir minggu depan jam 7 sampai dengan jam 9 ya. Seluruh event di Amerika ini tidak dipungut biaya ya teman-teman sekalian. Jadi kalian bisa langsung datang, bisa langsung bawa teman, bawa kakak adik juga boleh. Lalu kita juga belajar tentang history of San Francisco the Gravity. Di Amerika setiap 2 bulan sekali kita punya tema. Temanya itu kita ganti setiap 2 bulan. Kali ini kita sedang belajar sedikit tentang San Francisco. So San Francisco ini terkenal dengan graffiti-nya, art and fashion as well. So we're gonna learn a little bit about San Francisco and their graffiti. Itu minggu depan, tanggal 27 Januari jam 6 sampai dengan jam 9. Lalu kita juga ada, siapa yang nggak tahu? Ini siapa? Siapa yang tahu ini siapa? Gugun, oke. Gugun and Shelter is back. They are back from their tour from America. So they're gonna be performing here in the 1st of February. Catat ya di tanggalnya. Sebelum Valentine, just right before sebelum Valentine, tanggal 1 Februari jam 7 sampai dengan jam 9. Ini acara di Amerika yang saya sudah mention tadi, kita sudah ada 2 tahun di sini lebih. And just to make sure, kalian udah dapat door prize belum? Kartu door prize. Sudah, siapa yang belum dapat? Boleh diangkat kartu door prize-nya? Oke, nggak ada yang belum dapat ya? Ada yang belum? Oke, semua udah dapat, that's great. So door prize-nya disimpan, jangan dikasih teman sebelahnya karena setelah sesi kita yang pertama ini kita akan ada pengambilan door prize. Dan door prize ini diadakan dalam 1 hari itu bisa sampai 10 kali loh teman-teman. So you may be the lucky one. And don't forget to visit our website and join as a member di www.atamerica.org.id. Foto-foto kita akan upload di Facebook kita @America. Dan jangan lupa nge-tweet, kalau kalian nge-tweet mentioning @America ataupun #@America, nanti tweetnya akan muncul di Twitter wall di sebelah sini. Oke? Baik, tanpa berbasa-basi lagi, mari kita mulai segmen pertama pada At American pada pagi hari ini. Tepuk tangan dong buat moderator dan speaker kita, Eran Williams. Mr. Eran Williams, time is yours.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome to Ad America's second anniversary. Yay! Thank you so much for coming. Almost all of you are from Serang, right? All right, let's hear it for Serang. Represent. How long was your drive here this morning? What time did you get up? 2 hours? All right, that's dedication. Thank you very much for coming. It's wonderful to have you here. My name is Eran Williams, and I work at the U.S. Embassy. I'm the Regional English Language Officer, and I'm a hero, a superhero. I'm an English teacher! And, my job is to help English teachers, so all superheroes have to help people, right? Spider-Man goes around helping poor old ladies. I help English teachers in Indonesia. And I know that English teachers and English students, and actually all students, are also heroes, right? So today we're here to celebrate comics, heroes, superheroes, and education and teaching. And Ad America. I want to say that Ad America should be thought of by all Indonesian students and teachers as a second home or a second campus, because this is a great education resource. You can learn a lot here through the iPads, through the presentations. This is a really thriving cultural center with a lot of exciting stuff that happens every day. And amazingly, it's free. So you can come here to watch movies, you can come here to see great art, you can come here to get lectures from Americans and Indonesians. It's a wonderful campus, actually. And really, one of my main themes today is that our idea of campus, or where education takes place, is changing and should expand. So a lot of times when we think of education, we think of textbooks. But in reality, any text is an educational text. And comic books, or American comics, superheroes are all ways that teachers can expand the idea of where education takes place to make education more fun. Because there's also an idea that the classroom is dull, that learning is hard, and that libraries are scary. Yesterday I was in Palembang at a conference for English teachers, and we were talking about how few libraries there are at schools in Indonesia, and how students don't use the libraries very much at schools. And when I asked students there, they said that they don't use them because they're where old dusty books are and mean librarians. So the joy of comics for an educator is that it makes language exciting and fun. I mean, if you look at some of the images around Ad America today, they're explosions and stars and strong human beings, not always dressed completely. And that is interesting to young learners. So comic books are a way to bridge the sort of literacy divide, to make learning language fun, exciting, extraordinary. I think if you ask any American about their own literacy story, how they came to read and enjoy reading, comics will be a part of that. My own son, we used to sit around the table reading the newspaper in the morning. My wife would read a section, I'd read a section, my son would read a section, and he always had the comic section. We read to him comics like Calvin and Hobbes. He has every single Calvin and Hobbes comic book ever, and he's basically memorized it. And he really learned to read, not at school, but by reading comics, because comics have that visual guide that goes along with them. We think of, before this presentation, I went into my son's room and grabbed a bunch of his books, and almost half of his books, even though he's 13 now, are comic books. This is Baby Mouse, Queen of the World. This is Mafalda, which I think is an Argentinian comic. Here's Space Pirate. Here's Owl. Here's Bone. This was one of his favorite books. This is the second edition we have because the first edition fell apart. I read it to him so many times that the book completely fell apart. But also in his room, you have comic books on mathematics and chemistry and history and literature. So here's his biochemistry manga guide. My son happens to love science, but he loves it even more if it's in manga form. So here you've got a difference between normal rice and mochi rice, and it's talking about a chemistry lesson, and it's comic book characters talking about it. I know it's a topic near and dear to Indonesians' hearts as well, rice. So he's even got Hamlet and King Lear in comic book form. So comics for classroom, the classroom doesn't have to just be Superman. It can also be actual chemistry or English textbooks in comic form. I just wanted to pass some of these around so you can get an idea of it. So my son learned to read basically by reading comics. I too sort of got a love of travel by reading comics. When I was a kid, Tintin was just coming out in the United States in translation, and I remember waiting every year for the next Tintin book. And when it came out into the bookstore, my local bookstore, I would spend hours perusing the Tintin book and watching where he would go in the world, to South America, to Europe, to Southeast Asia. And I think that's where my love of travel came. And of course, comics also contain cultural information. So if you want to know about America or American character, read American comic books. If my son loves manga, and because of his love of manga, he's very interested in Japan and Japanese. He wants to learn Japanese. So the comic books were his introduction to Japanese culture. Let's see. What are comics? They have many different names. Graphic novels is sort of the more serious current name that we use for some of them. But there's basically pictures that are used to tell a story, a sequential story, using pictures and usually text. So it can be the funnies, we call them, in the newspaper every day. It can come out in book form. I think I've talked about some of these reasons for using comics in class. Do you guys ever use comics in your classes? Do you ever see them show up in your school? Your university students? No? Do you ever read comics? What comics do you read? Detective? What else? Conan? Sailor Moon? Okay, so manga. What about Indonesia? Are there Indonesian comics? Where do you see them? Is it in the newspaper or they come out in book form? Where do you get them? At Gramedia bookstores? Where? All right. You might think about, I think comics have been a great boon to American booksellers and to reading. You talk about creating a culture of reading. Comics are one of the ways that you do that. So if Indonesia does not have a thriving comic book industry or a place where you can read comics consistently, teachers and Indonesians who are interested in educating the public might think about promoting comics, actually. I think too often adults think that comics aren't real literature, but the truth is they are. Comics show through visuals the stress and rhythm of language, and by having some words bigger than others, for example, students can tell what's important in the sentence. Comics are kinesthetic. That means they show a lot of movement. One of the things we love about comics is that they're not stationary. When we think about the classroom, we should think about Bloom's taxonomy. this is a higher and lower order thinking. And a good teacher will try and keep the class up at the top here, where students are analyzing, synthesizing, and creating. Too often, we stay down at the bottom, where we're just asking our students to memorize facts. The reason that that's sort of not so effective these days is that we have a great ability to store facts and information in computer memory, so we no longer have to do that with our own human memory. We need to spend more time in the classroom and in our lives actually creating. As computers and machines do more jobs that human beings used to do, human beings need to focus more on creativity. And of course, businesses these days don't necessarily want to hire comic book writers, but they want to hire people who have the same skills that people who can create new ideas, new things, new solutions. There are a lot of great tools, speaking of technology, online. So teachers should know about these and utilize them in the classroom. For example, this is the Marvel website. I think you guys on the iPads in here have a Marvel app. If you go to the website, they have comics, but they also have activities. Some of them are puzzles and games, but some of them allow you to create your own comics. We're going to try this later today, and we're not going to use the website. I'm not sure this actually works on an iPad. I don't think it does. But if you go here on a regular computer, the activities will include the option to select your own characters, to select your own backdrops, to select your own word bubbles, to make your own comics. So one of the ways that teachers can use comics in the classroom is to have students do a gap fill. So you have a comic and you have gaps that the students can fill in the language, or you can also have them make their own comics. So here's one that somebody did on the Marvel site. So the way the characters are on the screen and the number of slides or the number of scenes was determined by the software. So you can choose who you want where, and you can choose the kind of thought or bubbles that you want. And this was a story that was created by Fabrico Rivas, who is an English teacher. So a lot of people are hesitant to use comics in the classroom because they don't think of themselves as artists. But of course, you don't have to be Leonardo da Vinci to be able to draw. If you can't draw a human face like that, then maybe you can draw a human face like that, at least, right? So you can use very simple drawings. We call them stick figure drawings in America. Stick figures are just a few lines representing a human being. You don't have to be a great artist. But also, I think too often teachers are afraid to use creativity in the classroom because, especially people your age, university students, hesitate to draw or sing or create. But the truth is, if teachers open the door to creativity in the classroom, in my experience, students will walk through that door and will be willing to create. For example, a lot of you were dancing up before the session this morning. So that shows that you're willing to create and to also do silly things, which is very important in education. If you're not willing to do silly things, then you probably won't learn as actively. So the answer is, yeah, you can draw comics even if you're not an artist. And the more you do it, the easier it will become. Okay, so let's give it a try. Think of a thing, an action, and a complement. We're looking a little bit at grammar construction here. So for example, a monster is destroying a city. That's a storyline. Or people are throwing garbage on the street. Or a mother is cooking dinner. Okay, so take a minute just for yourselves. Each one of you, think of a scenario like this. Anybody have one? Yes? You come up with a story idea? No? Volunteer? Raise your hand. It could be anything. It could be driving on the bus to at America. We got a flat tire, or we saw that there was a flood in Jakarta, or walking up the escalator to at America, I saw that there was a sale at the, what are some of the stores here? There was a sale at the, what's a store in the mall here? At the Audi store, right? What's a scenario, a provoking situation that you encounter every day in Indonesia? In my English class, I got hungry. That's a scenario right there. So does everybody have a scenario? Go ahead and write down a scenario. Write down one scenario. You guys have a pen and paper? Do you have one, sir? No, okay. Do you have one? Okay, you're ready. A.
Eran.
Okay, yes, sir.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, thank you for this change. Actually, that we are very grateful for. We are very grateful that this is a great change for us to be here.
Good.
Invited by at America Corner and RELO.
Good.
Well, I have a little bit scenario this
Good.
morning.
Okay.
Students were getting a bit late this morning before going to Jakarta to join or to participate at America Corner.
Okay.
Because of rain.
Okay, good. That's an excellent comic scenario. Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Another volunteer to read a scenario? A story starter? Yes? Okay. Thank you.
A rain fairy come to join us here at America.
Sorry, say that again?
A rain fairy come and join us here.
Okay, good. Thank you. Another one? Everyone should have one. It's not that hard. Yeah. Hey.
Hello, Pak Eran.
Hello.
How are you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I have a scenario. I was sitting down near the window of my apartment. There was a light coming through the glass of the window. It was too bright, but still I could see a man coming past by. That's all.
That's all? So wait, so that's very detailed. You're sitting by the window, it was too bright, and you saw a man coming by?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's good. That could be a comic, sure. Why not? Another scenario? I was eating rice and I bit a rock. I fell down, but a stranger helped me get back up. I was tired, but I couldn't sleep on the airplane, so I drank coffee instead. It's just basically a story that you're coming up with. Does anyone here have one? No? No stories? All right. Let me give you another example, because we're going to use these to try drawing. we're going to do something called a comic jam. This is an activity that you can do in an English classroom. But you could also, if you're not an English teacher, do something like this to enhance almost any subject. If you were teaching chemistry or history or music. So I need you guys to break up in groups of 3. 3 people in a group. And I need everyone to have a piece of paper. And in the instructions, it says that the piece of paper should have 9 slides, but I think we can try it with 3, since we don't have so much time. So instead of drawing 9 frames, try drawing just 3 frames on your piece of paper. So does everyone have a group of 3? Okay, you 3 are going to work together. You 3 are going to work together. You 3 are going to work together. Do you have your teams of 3? These are going to be your comic book writers. Your comic writers. In your group of 3, you need to come up with one story starter, one scenario. So for example, in the instructions it says draw 9 frames on a piece of paper. Let's just try 3 frames, okay? So that means by the time we're done, we'll have one whole comic page. Okay. Okay, so here's an example. Here's somebody cooking. This is somebody cooking dinner. That's the beginning. But each person will have each group will have a different scenario, right? Or actually, I take it back. Let's all write a comic based on the same scenario. So let's have our story be about coming to America. Let's say that you were getting on the bus, but the bus got lost coming to America, and so the first scene in your comic might be getting on the bus, might be somebody saying goodbye, have a good trip to Jakarta. The second scene might be getting lost, and the third scene might be getting a resolution to that problem. Okay, so in your groups of 3, you have one piece. Each person has one piece of paper. Each piece of paper has 3. So don't do 9. Do 3. So this is 9. But I'd like you to do 3 squares, right? Not 9, 3. So each piece of paper will have 3. Right, good. So this is a good example of the first screen, right? Except since you're going to use the whole piece of paper, your first screen could be bigger, right? So it could be one whole third. So you're going to have 3 different scenes, right? So on your piece of paper, divide it into 3. 1, 2, 3, right? Like this. No, not 9, 3. So that's 3, right? Just 3. Or it could be like this, sure. Doesn't matter. Does anybody have like the whole paper divided in 3? 1, 2, 3. So for example, you could also just go, since you're going to draw 3 on one page, you could also just go like this, right? 1, 2, 3. So you are going to draw the first screen, right? Okay, so if I wanted to draw a picture of a bus, I might draw a little thought bubble, right? I'm drawing upside down. We are, I can't draw upside down. We are going to Jakarta. So that would be your first screen. And then when you're done illustrating and writing your first panel, Then you pass the paper to somebody else in the group, right? You rotate the group, and another person writes the second part of the story. And then the third person, once you're done with the second one, you pass the paper again, and another person writes the third panel, right? Okay? Sorry, I wrote on your paper. I'll turn it over. Okay. Okay. All right, so let's, in each group, each person has a piece of paper, and let's draw the first panel, okay? What did I do with my iPad? Oh. Yeah, so you just don't do 6, do 3. So now you're, yeah, right, like that. You're drawing yours here. That's right. That's right. Good. Ah, excellent. Very nice. Okay, but you only need 3, not 9. So you can just focus on 3. Hey, son, how are you? What? What was great? Oh, right. I know. Mm. Mm. Yeah. Mm. Okay, I see there are some very good artists here. When we talk about teaching and education, we always talk about different learning styles, and some people learn very well by creating their art, have an artistic intelligence. Too often teachers ignore that or don't allow it into the classroom, so even though not everybody is an artist, it's good to let those who are express themselves in the classroom. Nice. That's excellent. Okay, so when you're done with the first panel, you pass the paper. Everyone passes it to somebody else. So that means another person in your group is telling the second part of your story. So you shouldn't be drawing, you don't draw the second panel. You only draw one panel on your story. And then you pass it to the next person. Okay, so once you're done with the first panel, you pass the paper to somebody else, and they're going to draw the second panel. So this guy, he wrote the first panel here, but she's going to do the second panel. He wrote the first panel here, but he's going to write the second panel. That's what you're going to do in your groups. So it's going to be a group comic, not one person writing the whole thing, but rather a group creation. So now you're passing your paper to the next person. So what you should have is one one panel with a picture and maybe some text or words, right? So the second person will draw the second panel. Four is okay, yeah, sure. You can bend the rules. So you did all three of these, right? Oh, you worked on it together? And you're already done? Wow, you're fast. So maybe do another one. Turn it over and do another one. A different story. Are you, yes. Are you guys all working together, or are you just letting him do all the work? Wow. That's fast, too. You're really fast. When you're done, I'll have you go up on stage and show off some of your creations. You can tell the comic book stories. But you should be collaborating, working as a group, not just on your own, right? Are you doing, did you draw that one? Is that yours? So you should actually be trading, yeah? So you should switch. Yeah, right, exactly. Yeah. So you're only drawing one panel. Are you guys sharing? You should, so this is important. In your group of three, you need to rotate the comic, right? So you write the first one, you write the second one? Is that yours? Oh, you wrote that one? Okay, good, because that looks very similar. Okay, good. So you're collaborating. Are you also collaborating? You're sharing. Okay, good. You guys are all better artists than I am, that's for sure. Okay, and then after the second panel is done, you go to the third, you rotate it again so that each person writes 1/3, one part of the comic, if we're writing a 3-part comic. So then in this case, the final panel might be, so the first panel, she's cooking, the second panel, she's tired, the third panel, it looks like the food has burned, right? Okay, so that's an example of student-created collaboration of a whole page of comics, but we're doing it on our own now. These are some examples of what students have done in classes, English classes. But let's finish up the comic that we're doing. That looks good. Oh, okay. Yeah. Try and make me more beautiful. Oh, that's good. I like yours. He's got real character. But you should be, you draw the first panel, and then he would draw the second panel, right? The same story, but different artists. Yeah. You guys can, so you right now you have the drawing and you're asking who should put the words on? Is that what you're asking? Yeah. I think probably you would also, you would share. So the idea is that the first student would write the first panel and the language that goes with it, and then pass it to the next person who would write the language and of the second panel, right? Some of you have just drawn pictures. If you just draw pictures, you might want to go back and create the dialogue or the words that go along with the story. One nice thing about comics is that they're not very wordy. So it could just be one word or two words, like, bye, we're going to Jakarta, or we're here, or thank you. Okay, is anybody done? Are any groups done? No, you're still working? While you're working, I'm just going to continue talking because I can't help myself. You know, Indonesia strikes me as an incredibly creative country, an incredibly creative culture. So it makes sense for Indonesian teachers to include creativity in the classroom. For example, wayang theater is kind of like comics, right? You've got characters or figures being moved and voices backstage, or the puppeteers, the people who are using the wayang, are telling stories. Those stories are known almost universally. The Mahabharata, the Ramayana stories are excellent for comic books because they're exciting graphics, exciting heroes, action, so you've got battles, princes and princesses, so you've got royalty, you've got gods, you've got warriors. So all the elements for that you find sort of with American superheroes, you find in Ramayana, the Mahabharata, and wayang theater. So it might be appropriate to utilize some of those characters, some of those puppets in Indonesian sort of graphic novel form. But even from what I've seen of your comics today, I can see that many of you are great artists, and even those of you that are not great artists seem very comfortable actually just jumping in and drawing and creating a story. So that's a good indication that Indonesians in the classroom are ready to try this kind of activity, and that if teachers are not activating and utilizing the immense creativity of their students, then there's a lot of the higher part of Bloom's taxonomy, the higher level thinking, that we're not allowing into the classroom. And that's a crime, both because it's enjoyable for students, but also because it's what's required of workers, employees. These days in the workplace, more and more, we are being asked to do higher level thinking activities and create. Not just repeat English or what we've learned in school like automatons, but find exciting new ways to communicate and create. So do we have any groups that are done that want to come up on stage and show off, tell the comic story that they've created? I saw some fantastic art up there. Do you want to? But actually, almost every group has a good story to tell. So could some of you come down on stage and tell your story? If we start out with great artists, other people might be intimidated. Okay. Yeah. So I'll hold it for you. You can.
The story come with clock ringing. it show 10, and she was she's still sleeping. She's still sleeping, and then she look the clock. It's she what the she's going late, and she screaming, "Oh no, I'm late!"
Okay, good. Excellent.
Thank you.
That's beautiful. So, and even though, if you look at language production, even though the actual language in the comic strip was pretty minimal, like if you ask the students to explain what's in the pictures, then they use a lot more language. Notice that he got to use some fun, what do you call it when you use words that sound like sounds? Onomatopoeia, yeah, I guess that's the word. That's when a word sounds like the sound. Like if you have a bunch of Z's for somebody sleeping, it's like zzz, I guess. It's like somebody sleeping. So that's another fun aspect of language. Very good. Somebody else? Another story? Yes, sir. And up here. Okay, good. Yeah. Yeah, come on down.
I think that my picture is not so good.
No, it's great.
But I want to tell about this picture.
Yeah.
At the first, there are two friends, Mr. A and Mr. B. He went to school. After that, she meet with the teacher, English teacher, and he is give knowledge about an English lesson.
Okay.
And the next time, and 8 years later, Mr. A come next teacher, and Mr. B come the delegates Indonesia to join United Nations Charter.
Excellent. Okay. So it's a story of somebody becoming a diplomat and
Yes,
learning
right.
enough English to
Yes.
participate in the United Nations. And down here we've got all of the sort of the signs for the various nations: UAE, Egypt, UK, China, and is that Indonesia?
Yes.
Okay.
right.
And so the guy is representing Indonesia because of his great education. That's a great story. And you've got like 6 panels, right?
Yes.
Okay. And it shows you the power of learning English. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Does anybody do a story in collaboration? So each person did a different panel in the story? Is that what you guys did? Okay, would you come up and show yours? Okay. Right.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Okay, I try to explain my story. My title story is Make Color Life with a Comic. And verse 1 is me. I am on boarding house, and I have to wake up a liar. And I'm hard to wake up a liar, like that. And second poem is, I will go to American in Jakarta, and I just arrived in my campus. This picture like this. And I am at America in Pacific Place, level 3, and I'm enjoying making a comic in here with Mr. Williams.
Okay.
Like that.
Excellent.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Why does it say, oh, okay.
Bedroom.
Is it your
Yes.
bedroom?
Yes, in my boarding house, like that.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Wait, oh, no, come back for a picture. So hold it up for that. Yeah. Okay. Okay, thank you. Okay. Do we have anybody else? I don't want to leave anyone out. If you have something you want to show. Does anybody have, yeah? Does anybody have something different that they want to show? Now, as a teacher, one of the great things about this activity is that you can decorate the classroom with these comics. So you can put them up and create what we call a text-rich environment so that there's language on the walls. And some teachers might be concerned that some of the language is not accurate. So if you misspelled a word, for example, or the syntax was not correct in a sentence, but that actually could be an opportunity for peer review. So you could have students go around the room and look for anything that was potentially incorrect in the comics that were created, and you could correct it. But you could also have students do activities based on the comics on the wall, right? So in Indonesia, I hear from a lot of teachers that they don't have good materials, that materials are too expensive. But here we're creating our own materials. And actually self-made materials are the best because they're contextual. They have to do with what you know. You get to show yourself in your own room. You get to show your own university. So the materials are contextually interesting and relevant, whereas many materials that English teachers use take place in Great Britain or take place in the United States, which is exciting and interesting. But sometimes you don't need to know the word for apple. You need to know the word for durian because if you don't live in Malang, you may not have many apples around. I'm very impressed with your willingness to do this and with your willingness to show what you've done. If I was working with American university students or American high school students, it would be like pulling teeth to get them to actually draw something and to collaborate and to show it to the rest of the class. So Americans, it's interesting, in the classroom are generally shyer, I think, than Indonesians, or less willing to create. So again, it confirms for me that Indonesian teachers should really take advantage of the fact that their students are willing to play with language, to have fun in the classroom, and to create, because that's where language learning is really going to take place, when you're interacting intimately with the language, when you're using the language to create a story that has to do with your life. That's going to be language that you remember. And when you were creating these stories, you were rummaging through your lexical information, pulling the words that you needed. And if you don't have some of the words you need, that's when maybe you can ask the teacher or ask your peers or use your smartphone to find the vocabulary that you are missing. Okay, so that's very impressive. Those were good drawings. Does anybody else, good comics, does anybody else have one that they want to show off? I don't want to, yes, sir? Yes, ma'am? Hello. Welcome. Yeah, so what have you got?
Yes, this is my friend's story. I just want...
I'll hold it up for you.
My English so bad.
No, it's good. It's good. Yeah, don't worry about it.
The first, he was... What mean?
Yeah.
He was asleep and he... What's in English?
He woke up?
Yes. He's groggy.
So he was sleeping and then he woke up?
Yes.
Okay.
He wake up.
And what did he say? What?
What? This is my friend picture.
Yeah.
She get toothbrush so fastly.
Right.
She look
in the mirror.
Look herself in the mirror. She get breakfast and drive a car fastly.
Where?
To go to Unsera,
Oh, okay.
Universitas of Serang Raya.
Okay. Okay, so the first part of the story is somebody waking up, getting ready, like looking in the mirror, maybe washing her face. She eats breakfast.
He wake up too late.
Yeah, she woke up too late. She got in the car, drove very fast to Unsera. So that's the beginning of the story, and it's going to be interesting to see what happens at the end. I look forward to seeing the end of your comic.
Thank
you. Thank you. Okay. The interesting thing about comics in the United States, or one interesting thing, is when they first came out, a lot of adults and a lot of educators thought they were dangerous. So adults really looked down on comics as something that was for the kids, but also something that might corrupt the intelligence or the minds of kids. And they were just the same way that my parents might have thought that television was bad for you. People, my parents' parents, my grandparents probably thought that comic books were bad for my parents, that they were a bad influence because they weren't sort of high literature. What's interesting is there's been a complete transformation. So now a lot of the best writers in the United States, the people like Michael Chabon who are winning the prizes in the United States, the National Book Award or a Pulitzer Prize, and poets as well are sort of using comics but also recognizing the power, the literary power of comics. So they've gone from being low art to high art. You saw that there's going to be a presentation here on graffiti in San Francisco. It's the same as graffiti. So graffiti, which is sort of street art, literally, it's in the street. A lot of people used to look down on it as inferior to other visual arts, but now they're recognizing that that's where some of the most exciting creation is going on, and it's the voice of the people. And so in the United States, we see often what's thought of as beneath artists or beneath the cultural elite then actually becomes exactly what the cultural elite allow to be considered the most esteemed art in the culture. So we've seen comic books go from they used to be sold in drugstores, they used to be sold in pharmacies on comic book racks. We've seen them go from there to the bookstores to university libraries. So if you go to a university library in the United States, they'll contain graphic novels because graphic novels have taken their place next to Nathaniel Hawthorne and Ernest Hemingway and other great American art. It was the same actually with things like with jazz as well. Is maybe the great American art form was once sort of looked down upon as inferior to classical music. So the comic books have undergone a complete transformation in the United States in terms of their perception. So I hope that after our brief session today, you'll feel comfortable using comics in the classroom as a tool for English teachers and education in Indonesia. It's a way to interest students and to make subjects, be they language or history, more accessible and interesting to students. I think we're going to do a door prize. Or does anybody have any questions first? Yes? Oh, you wanted to do another presentation? Before we end, did you want to present yours too? That's okay. You can. Yeah, okay. Yeah. I can hold it for you.
It's lovely morning. Beautiful roses in pot, partner in beloved window. Bicycle is ready for you too. This is our home in one of part of Sumatra. In our village, you still easy to find butterfly. Also, fish is so natural. Fishing is one of most favorite activity in this village. Although there is rain, because there will be rainbow at the end.
Oh, that's a nice story. It's sort of it's almost a tourist guide, right? You're telling about aspects of the place, right? Okay, very nice. And thank you. Notice it's a slightly different style where the text is underneath the panels, right? Rather than having people talking in the panels, right? It's a narrator form, sort of third-person form, rather than first person. Very nice. Thank you. You can take. Was there another volunteer? Somebody else who wanted to show off? Yes, please. We're open to questions.
Well, can I know, as a student of university, can we learn learn by comic? Yeah, as we know, sometimes we bored. Actually, for me, especially for me, in the 5th semester, I just feel a little bit bored with the way to teach from my lecture. So, do you have any suggestion for my lecture behind? So it will be a nice class, and we will feel like we have just come to our university again, like the 1st semester.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay, that's a good question. How to revitalize the class. So things have gotten, you've maybe been in university a while, you've been following the same procedures, and they've gotten a little bit tiresome. So maybe introducing some creativity into the classroom was good. You asked, could you use comics? Absolutely, you can, and you can do that in many different ways. I passed around some books that actually could be used at university. So if you're studying organic chemistry, there are some textbooks for organic chemistry that are in comic book forms. There are some history. I've looked at some history textbooks for American history that are in comic form that are very, very good. They show, so one thing you can do with comics easily is show a conversation or a discussion which has two sides, right? So it's usually when you read a history textbook, you're just getting one person's interpretation, and they might have sources at the back that show where they got all their information. But if you're using a comic book format, it might be easier to show that history is up for interpretation, that there's still debates about what really happened and what the meaning of that was. So the answer is yes. Now, in terms of what to tell the teacher, it can be a lot of work for them to include, I mean, are they going to write a whole textbook in comic book form? That might be too much work. But certainly to make class interesting, you could insert a little bit of creativity into the beginning, at least, of every class. Rather than giving a test where you have to, give a multiple choice A, B, C, D answer, maybe you could do an illustration or include on an exam an opportunity or the option of doing a drawing. I've had literature classes where for an essay exam, one of the options might be for an exam to do a drawing of a scene from a novel, for example. Some of you are very good artists, and in 10 minutes you wrote extensive sort of pages of art. So why not give students the opportunity to express themselves that way in class, even for a grade? So the answer is yes. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
My name is Hendra. I'm not participating in this class.
Oh, okay.
You show me doing something else.
Okay.
Because I have no self-confidence in drawing.
Oh, okay.
But the concept for making a story is I have.
Okay.
But I have some critics for you.
Okay.
Can you say comics can for teaching many things?
Yes.
I believe for science you cannot do that.
Okay.
Because you need too much words to explain one.
Yeah.
Also, the drawback from comics is you don't expand your vocabulary because there's too little space in one page.
Okay.
So if many words I don't know in English, so I always look in the Merriam-Webster on the internet, and there are so many words, the synonyms and what I never heard about it.
Yeah.
So I think a comic is good for elementary school, but not for advantage higher level.
Yeah.
One more.
Sure.
Yeah, you interrupt me, so I forget now. Yes, number two.
Okay.
Yes, with comics, you are not eco-friendly because you using paper again.
Oh, okay. That's
so I think you should find a way popularize comics, but not in a book, in a paper book.
All right, yeah, that's a
Thank
good point. Now, I think it's always good to think about being green and ecologically sensitive, and that's right. I mean, we just used a bunch of paper, so I apologize to all the trees that we were using. But of course, comic books in the United States were written on very poor quality paper, so maybe they use less paper than others, or it's easy to use recycled paper. to do comics. But also more and more people are not buying books, they're buying electronic books, and that's true with comics as well. On the iPads, there are Marvel comics that are electronic, and the quality, the graphic quality is amazing on a computer or on an iPad. The colors are very bright, and you can expand the pictures. So it's pretty wonderful to read comics online as well. In terms of elementary school versus university, I think in general you have a traditional view of comics, which I think is true, that there aren't as many words and it's more basic vocabulary. It's mostly pictures. So you're right that it may be more appropriate for elementary school students, and I talked about comics as a gate, as a way to get into reading. It's very exciting, and that usually happens when you're very young. But comics take all different forms. You say that there aren't many words, but if some comics will have pages and pages of text and then a picture. So they're very dynamic and creative in the way that they interrelate text and graphics. So you'll find all different varieties. Now this is literally a college textbook on biochemistry. And on some pages there are mostly pictures, but on other pages there are a lot of words. It just sort of depends on your topic, and it depends on your presentation. I studied geometry in college, and geometry is all pictures, right? There's not much text. I've seen proofs of the Pythagorean theorem, which were really just pictures, no text at all. Just said sort of, behold, look at how this line is equal to this line, and the square on this side is twice as big as the square on this side. So it depends on the topic or text that you're talking about. But in general, you're probably right that comics are maybe more appropriate for younger levels, and they have fewer words. But that's one of the reasons that young people love them, is because they're not overwhelmed with too much input. I think teachers often will give students so much text or so much input that they're scared off. I can't handle that. And more when we study reading, we realize that we have to give our students some text that they can master and that they find easy. You'll see 4 or 5-year-olds reading the same book over and over again, right? Or they'll ask their parents to read them the same book 100 times. Partly that's so they can feel like they have mastered that book. So it's not a bad thing to give students texts that are easy or even too easy that they already know. Too often, when we talk about Krashen's theory of language acquisition, L+1, too often teachers do language plus 50. We give our students too much new information. Are there any other questions before we do the door prize? Yes, we've got a lot of questions. Sir? I think we got one more.
Thank you for the chance.
Yeah.
My question is, we know that from comic we can know about culture around the world, and I think comic just for one who can drawing, painting, and like that. But how about one can't drawing or not interested in comic like that? Thank you so much.
Yeah, that's a good question. What if you can't draw or you're really afraid of drawing? I was surprised that almost everybody did this. I didn't think everyone would be willing to draw. So that may be uncommon, actually, in Indonesia. Everyone may be willing to do this. If you can't do it, then I would say you can have options for students. If they don't want to draw pictures, have them write the text, and maybe use geometry or some very simple pictures like a smiley face or a frowny face, emoticons instead of pictures or something. There's almost always a way to give the students something that they will be willing to do. But you're right, not everything that the teacher does appeals to all students. That's why we need to have variety. Sometimes we do oral presentations, sometimes we have written exams, sometimes we have listening, and sometimes we have more creative activities. A good teacher will have a variety. I think one more question, and then we need to go to our door prize. One more question? Yeah.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Ilzam from State Islamic University. My majority is nursing. I think, in addition, I'm still rather not agree with the Mr. in here. I'm so agree that the comic implemented and applying all of age, all of stage of education. Me, as a nursing student, very understand when my teacher show me about the process, for example, process of the birth baby, process of chain infection, and the other, we easy and understand if the animation or the comic implemented in our study.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, when I was studying anatomy, I was taking a physiology class in high school, and we used a coloring book to learn all the muscles and bones. And it was almost every nursing student takes that class in the United States, and they use the same book. It's a coloring book of human anatomy, and you have to learn so many different muscles and bones, and that coloring is a fantastic way to do it. So, and that's at a very high level, not just at elementary school, but university and professional, right? So there are almost always ways to utilize graphic information, right? Okay, good. Thank you. All right, let's give away some prizes. And could I, let me have my books back, please, my comic books. I have the chemistry book back. Okay, so I'm picking two, right? One at a time? Okay, the winner is?
0, 5, 3, 8. Ya, silakan ibu yang ada di belakang. Boleh turun?
She just... I hope you like comic books. All right, congratulations. Yeah. It's an X-Men comic. All right. Yeah. Congratulations. All right. And yeah, 0593. 0593.
0593. Going once.
Also back there.
Also back there.
Do we have... Oh, all right. It's Legos. Lego Star Wars. Yeah, I know, it's very cool. Yeah, you're welcome. Congratulations.
Okay, so I think that's it for our first segment of the day. And I would like to invite all the students to come up to the stage and take a photo with the superhero. First. Terima kasih buat partisipasinya, teman-teman boleh naik ke atas panggung buat kita foto bersama. Silakan. Jangan lupa barang-barangnya boleh dibawa, gambarnya boleh sekalian dikasih unjuk ketika foto. Boleh minta musik sedikit? Thank you. Ini bagi yang baru pertama kali kemarin, ini merupakan salah satu tradisi di Amerika di mana kita mengambil foto dengan kuncinya Amerika. Ya, silakan naik ke atas panggung semuanya. Yang paling tinggi mungkin paling belakang. Yang merasa agak pendek boleh agak jongkok. Oke, that's great. Oke. Gambarnya dipegang? Iya. Gambarnya dipegang, dikasih unjuk. Gambarnya dipegang, iya. Oke. Mas, gambarnya nggak kelihatan, boleh maju ke depan aja di sini. Paling depan, maju, agak maju, agak maju. Agak maju nggak kelihatan gambarnya karena ketutupan lampu. Agak maju aja, kemari aja. Paling depan aja. Okay, yeah, that's better. Okay. Okay, guys. So everybody look here. Say cheese, this is another superhero. This is one of our social media superhero.